Here we go. It's time for another podcast, and it's go time. So we got a pretty good group today, and everybody is happy that COVID indeed is almost over. Everyone's more relaxed and more people are coming out, so we're going to be enjoying some festive times. Looks like we have some of the usual suspects, but many of them are not present today. In any case, we come into the corner and we make a reasonable stop. I'm always in favor of a full stop, but you know, I guess you can only rein people in so much. There's a lot of ingrained behavior from other group rides that we won't talk about. So the sprint is on, and it's time for me to go to the front. A lot of the big men are not here, so I know it's going to be up to me to do a lot more of the work, and the pace may not be as high because some of the big men are not here. No Kerry, no Matthew Michaels, we don't have any Danny, etc., etc., etc. So it looks like Dean is up front, and I think it's Wilhelm. I know Dean is training for a half Ironman. In fact, he's probably preparing for that as I make this video. So Dean has stated that his coach, and as part of his preparation, is going to be doing some hard intervals, and he's let the group know that, so they won't chase him in earnest or wonder why he's slowing down. So I want no part of this chase because I know what kind of a horsepower that Dean can put out, and if he's going to hold that for what he says, I am not going to have any part of that. So as you can see, looking at my wattage, it was like 300, 320, and I am not chasing Dean as he's walking away. I mean, 320, 340. So looking back, we see that has already strung the group out, but we're all together. Curtis looking good. We got Greg back there. Byron, the big motor. I see Isla, and it looks like Joel, who had a hard run the day before, so he's not going to be doing a whole lot here. So Byron comes to the front. He says, "Let's go." And I'm really not feeling it right now. I mean, if you look at my heart rate, it's at 170, which that's more than I like to see it at. It seems like I can run it higher now these days, which I'm okay with, or maybe my heart rate strap is better. But it's nice to see that I'm using a real strap and it's not giving those false readings that the wrist heart rate off the Garmin had been giving me. Anyway, Byron's up front and he's like drilling it. Looking behind, it's Curtis and Greg, etc. in tow, and everybody's pretty relaxed. You can see that there's some pauses in the pedaling. Everyone's still being polite, pointing out the holes in the road, etc. And game time isn't on yet. But like seeing the men up front, the heads of state, it looks like these are the men who are actually going to be doing a lot of the work. There was a car up, and good to see that everybody did, stay on this side of the yellow line, although it still makes me nervous. Some people like get close and they lean over that corner, especially when they're apexing. In any case, the selection is starting to be formed. It looks like we have, bringing up the rear, Marcelo, who's moved back to the area for a while, and it's the first time he has his Cannondale. Byron Wilhelm still up front, just drilling it. And look, Dean is like still away. And if you stayed away from Byron, you know you are throwing down some serious horsepower. So we know like Dean is just doing intervals, so he's going to slow down at some point. But you can see this is why I wanted no part of that. Would this have been a good springboard to launch somebody? Yeah. But just having one person in front, even though Dean is a big draft, and knowing that Byron is back there, that's just a recipe for getting caught later on. In any case, we're bringing Dean back slowly, and looking at the map, he's been out there for over a mile. Noticing the little loop past Dead Man's Lake, we're coming up on almost a 2 mile point, which is where we intersect, I think it's County Road 15 or 13. In any case, people are keeping up a good tempo. I'm in the 200s, and I'm third wheel. Wilhelm looking good. Byron comes by, just happy to sit on the front. And at this pace, and with my heart rate still being kind of up at 168, I'm like, I'm okay, but I really don't want any part of the front here. Now, somewhere in here, Curtis called for some rotation behind me, and I was thinking to myself, I don't want any part of that. There's no way that I'm going to be able to go to the front and hold that speed and be able to recover and have anything later on. When Byron's going faster than I'd have been going anyhow, it's been slowing things down. In any case, we're settling in, and Byron is super content to just hammer up there. He had mentioned earlier in the week he had perhaps eaten a bit much, and this was part of his penance to try to work off some calories. And indeed, he is burning off some calories. So we notice that like this is actually a slight uphill grade the entire way. Even though it's only maybe 1, 2, 3% at times, we are in fact climbing. So you're sitting in, but you're still having to earn your keep for a lot of this. My heart rate's still at 170, not recovering much here, which is a testament to, well, really how little the draft is up here, third wheel, especially behind Wilhelm. He's not a big guy. Hope I got that name right. If I got it wrong, well, somebody will correct me. In any case, it looks like Byron is finally ready to maybe relinquish the front, but I'm pushing up this little riser here, 350. Oh, look at that, 400 watts just to stay near the front. And Byron is still not drifting back too quickly, so he's still like throwing down some wattage. So I'm pretty content to sit here and heart rate up to 173. Those little punchy rollers, risers, they really take a little bit out of you. And this is what is actually going to create a selection, whereas a lot of people can sit in, but they can't do the punchy stuff. So looking behind, yeah, everybody, this is the final selection today. Curtis, looks like surprisingly Marcelo back there, Joel and Byron. So we're working this one over, and I'm trying to stay in a little bit of the draft that's up there, but you can see even sitting in like 200 plus watts. So now I'm on the front. Wilhelm looks around, he sees the selection's been made, and finally Curtis gets his wish that there is a rotation, because I want no part of being up there, because I'm, as you can see, not recovering. But on the way back, it looks like my heart rate drops 169, starting to feel okay. Since I haven't done any real racing this year, I'm not really certain what I'm able to sustain for long periods. But for these little exercises, all the signs are pretty good. So Curtis looking pretty happy back there, keeping up a good cadence. Is it Byron up at the front, drilling it once again? Yes. And speeds, look at that, 26 mile an hour as we near the climax here. 27, people are hammering. And my batteries or my Garmin had locked up earlier, so I didn't have my heads-up display, so I don't know what we were doing. I had my little watch on my wrist, but I wasn't taking the time to go look and to see what kind of wattage we were throwing down, which it's good to know that I can still kind of run blindly and I'm not totally driven by power here. 300 watts, 200 plus, etc. Yeah, and I'm kind of surprised to see Joel on the front, but I guess he had a little something, since even though he had like exercised hard before, it's hard to not be excited. But it's definitely not the Joel of old where he would have been throwing down some serious wattage. And as you can see, I'm almost kind of recovering here. Look at that, like 150, 170 watts, heart rate finally down to 166. So this means I am getting charged up compared to what I had before. Looks like Wilhelm was going to go around for a little bit, but Joel finally pulls off. Maybe he was like unhappy with the pace drop because now we were down to like 23. Marcelo for the first time driving at the front, making the selection with the big men for the first time. And since he came from Maryland, I'm going to say that once he gets acclimated to altitude again, he could be a player. Now, I'm looking at his cadence, and in my opinion, it's like way too high. Like he needs to be up in that a little bit because he's like bouncy at that point, not very efficient. And maybe that's his deal, but everybody else is pushing a little bit of a slower cadence. So maybe take that to heart, Marcelo, if you see this. But if that's your style, stay with it. So 23 miles an hour, life is good, heading towards the finish. I'm in second wheel, and I'm pretty happy about this. Heart rate's finally come down to like below 170, or at least close enough to it. So I'm going to have a little bit for a final burst. So I don't think Wilhelm was done here, but I'm thinking to myself, I want to go. So there we go. And we're looking at my wattage. 300 and what? 20, 30, 50, 50 watts, 370, 380. Okay, so we're going for it now. So we're over 400 watts at a time. At this point, I'm going to give it all I've got, and I'm waiting for somebody to go around. Now, look at that heart rate, 175, 176, totally anaerobic here. I told myself I was saving myself for a little bit of a burst near the end, but I was driving hard enough that I didn't want anybody to come around easily. Now, Curtis could have, but we discussed it later on afterwards. He was like, he didn't feel he did enough work and didn't think he deserved it. But looks like, yeah, from the front, I got that one. Thank you for the thumbs up from Byron there. Well done, everyone. That was a fun one. Everyone worked well together. It was safe, and can't say anything wrong about that one. And I got the win, even if it was a gift from Curtis. Thanks, Curtis. It's always good. Well done. But next time, and don't feel the need to hold back. Go practice your sprint. I'm good for it. I had a little something saved. I don't know how much, and probably nowhere near enough to stay with you. But it would have been cool to see how many people would have went with you, and if I could have gotten at least a podium, a top 3. Good time was had by all. Thank you very much, and we will see everybody again next week.